This is Africa in 10 minutes, where we bring to you the trending business news of last week as reported on Footprint Africa. I'm Chamaka J. Uwadoka, and with me in the studio is
Mike Messikeno. It's great to have you on the show.
On the headlines this week, Africa Oil discovers new deposits in Kenya, Canadian Solar supplies 10 megawatts to Uganda Power Project, and Footprint Africa interviews the regional head of Korea Plus.
And now the news in details. Africa Oil Corporation has announced it has struck new oil following the drilling of 2 new exploration wells in the Turkana County of Kenya. The area is estimated to have 750 million barrels of discoverable oil deposits. The Canadian Oil and Gas Company has a 25% working interest in the 2 blocks. Operator Tulu Oil has 50% and Maersk Oil and Gas the remaining 25%. Following the new find, the joint venture partners are extending the current exploration and appraisal by a further 3 wells. The company said that the additional wells will further explore the Greater Etom complex as well as drill the Ngamia 2 well, which will be used for an extended water flood pilot test in conjunction with the early oil pilot scheme, which comes in stages.
In other news, unaudited financial results from Guarantee Trust Bank, otherwise known as GT Bank, shows the bank has sustained its long-term growth record with 50.39 billion naira profits before tax. The result for the quarter ended 31st of March 2017 was released to the Nigerian and London stock exchanges. A review of the results shows positive performance across all financial indices, reaffirming the bank's position as one of the most profitable and well-managed financial institutions in Nigeria. Gross earnings for the period grew by 39%, driven primarily by growth in interest income. Profit before tax stood at 50.39 billion naira, representing a growth of 64% over 30.68 billion naira recorded in the corresponding period of March 2016. Commenting on the financial results, the Managing Director, CEO of Guarantee Trust Bank, Mr. Segun Abaje said, and I quote, "Given the significant progress we made in 2016, we came into the year better equipped to navigate any further economic headwinds, and our performance in the first quarter demonstrates our ability to deliver sustainable long-term growth. We remain committed to maximizing shareholders' value and delivering superior and sustainable return." End of quote.
Moving on, according to Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, the partnership between Nigeria and China in the area of infrastructural development has acted as a catalyst for domestic tourism in the African nation. Speaking to the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, the minister said in his own opinion, China is a good example of how domestic tourism can prosper. He also expressed excitement that China is collaborating with Nigeria in the area of infrastructure such as roads, power, and railways. The minister further described the bilateral relations between Nigeria and China as mutual and sincere, saying China remains one of the strategic partners of Nigeria because of its genuine commitment and passion towards the country. In his response, the ambassador said culture and people-to-people relations are part of the 10 priority areas which China is exploring to foster relations with Nigeria.
In aviation news, Qatar Airways has announced it will launch direct flights to 3 new African cities in 2018. The state-owned carrier will introduce flights to Mombasa in Kenya, Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, and Accra in Ghana, among an additional 12 new destinations. Qatar Airways, which operates daily flights to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, will compete with Ethiopian Airlines, Turkish Airlines, Rwanda Air, and Fly Dubai, the other international airlines which already ply the direct Mombasa route. In investment news, the African Export-Import Bank, otherwise known as the Afrexim Bank, has demonstrated its commitment to the Egyptian economy and the country's industrialization efforts by granting a $300 million financing facility to the National Bank of Egypt, NBE. The facility will support the country's small and medium-sized enterprises initiative, which seeks to provide 5 billion Egyptian pounds in loans to industrial and agricultural SMEs through NBE, which has a history of properly utilizing and dispersing financing to SMEs. The Afrexim Bank President, Dr. Benedict Orama, noted that the facility will enable SMEs in the industrial and agricultural sectors realize their business ambitions and would boost employment and the overall welfare of the Egyptian people. The hard currency facility will enable beneficiaries to access essential investment goods from the international markets to improve their competitiveness.
One of the largest global solar power companies, Canadian Solar Incorporation, has supplied 10 megawatts of PV modules to the Soroti photovoltaic plant in Uganda. Soroti, The largest project of its kind in East Africa is also the first solar plant connected to Ugandan's grid. It consists of 32,000 pieces of Canadian solar high-efficiency poly panels and generates clean, low-carbon electricity for 40,000 homes, schools, and businesses in the area. The company hopes the development will stimulate the economy and create local employment. The 10-megawatt solar system is developed under the Global Energy Transfer Corporation Program Feed-in Tariff, a support scheme for the development of renewable energy projects in East Africa managed by the German Development Bank. Still in power generation news, President Kenyatta broke ground for the construction of the Okaria 5 power project in the Nakuru County in Kenya. The plant, which will produce 158 megawatts of electricity, upon completion will increase Kenya's global leadership in green energy production and consumption. It was commissioned alongside 14 wellhead units producing a total of 75 megawatts of electricity. Developed by Kenyan engineers to harness geothermal power, the wellhead unit is an innovation by the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, which has reduced the duration between the first drilling of a well and the installation of a geothermal plant from 5 years to 2 years. Whilst challenging other institutions in the country to adopt similar innovative technology, President Kenyatta said innovation must be the new identity of Kenyan institutions in order to spur growth. Geothermal energy is not subject to the unpredictability of the weather and runs at more than 90% of the time every year. The implication of this, according to President Kenyatta, is that reliable power will be accessible to every Kenyan home.
Moving on, Angola's mining sector has announced plans to increase mining activities on the exploration of diamonds, gold, phosphates, iron, copper, and ornamental stones to ramp up foreign earnings. The activities fall under the implementation of 23 new projects in the short and medium term. This was announced by the Minister of Geology and Mining at the opening ceremony of the 6th Consultative Council of the sector. According to the minister, the implementation of these projects contributes to tackle the current crisis by diversifying the sources of tax revenues and raise the country's foreign exchange resources. The official said there is a strategy aimed to change the country's economic base over the next 15 years, putting the mining industry as an alternative to oil. In order to ensure materialization of said strategy, the minister called for the need to invest in the production of information, geological and mining mapping of all territory, with the data provided by the National Plan of Geology.
And finally this week, Footprint to Africa recently interviewed Maureen Colenio, the regional head of the Korea Plus, on the commencement of the company's operations in the East and Central African region. She said the company's decision was influenced by the fact that Kenya is the economic trade hub for the East and Central African region. Logistically, it has direct flights to all the countries in East and Central Africa, and she therefore believes that setting up Nairobi as a hub will allow the company to offer superior services to customers across the region and to other parts of the world. She said the company would serve the entire country, not limiting its services to only major towns, and will also invest in domestic and international market.
That wraps up the trending stories of the week. Stay tuned for a recap of the news.
Africa Oil discovers new deposits in Kenya. GT Bank records 50.39 billion naira profit before tax in the first quarter of 2017. Africa's tourism sector is getting a big boost from China. Qatar Airways announces launch of direct flights to 3 new African cities. Afrexim Bank grants $300 million to ramp up industrialization in Egypt. Canadian Solar supplies 10 megawatts to Uganda Power Project. Construction of 158 megawatt Okaria 5 power project begins in Kenya. Angola intensifies mining activities to increase foreign earnings. And Footprint to Africa interviews the regional head of Korea Plus.
To keep up with the trending business news in Africa, stay connected. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and connect with us on LinkedIn.
These news and reports are called from Footprint to Africa. For daily updates and more business news in Africa, log on to www.footprinttoafrica.com today.
Footprint to Africa. Business news made in Africa by Africans. Thanks for watching.